Hello, I'm Stephanie Ruff.
And I'm Aviva Nebeski.
We're the hosts of the Dressage Today podcast, where you can find us talking about anything and everything dressage related. Our conversations span the world of dressage, from leading riders to local level dressage heroes. We're talking training advice, showing tips, and sharing stories to inspire your own dressage journey. So tune in, then tack up. Happy spring and welcome to the Dressage Today podcast, sponsored by ADM. This month's podcast features a great interview with successful Grand Prix competitor and trainer Jessica Jo JJ Tate. But before we get to that, Aviva, you have some big news you'd like to share.
I do, Stephanie. So I don't know how many of you guys have heard of something called the Maccabi Games. But the Maccabi Games are also known as the Jewish Olympics. They're held every 4 years in Israel. And believe it or not, they are the third largest international sporting event in the world.
That's amazing to me. I don't mean to cut you off, but that's amazing to me.
Well, they're third behind the Olympics, of course. And get this, the FIFA World Cup soccer.
Right.
So the Maccabi Games are held every 4 years in Israel. And then the 2 year in between, they're held in Europe. But the last time they were in Israel, 10,000 athletes competed.
That's amazing.
From 85 countries in about 43 sports.
Wow.
And you have to be Jewish in order to compete. And this is an opportunity for Jewish athletes from all over the world to come together as Jews and compete together in their various sports and just create a sense of unity and culture and heritage that's particularly unique. And I am so honored and so thrilled and so flabbergasted to say that I have been appointed to the dressage team because, yes, there is dressage and show jumping.
Right.
And so I am going to Israel in July to represent the U.S. In dressage in Israel for the Maccabi Games. How cool is that?
That is the ultimate in cool. I think that is absolutely amazing.
I do too. I'm still blown away. When I was first approached, of course, my first comment was, I've never ridden Grand Prix. And so our listeners know we actually compete. I think it depends on the horses. I'm still learning a lot about what's involved, but we ride either second 2 and second 3 or third 2 and third 3.
Okay.
And then the top riders go on to individual championships and they ride a couple of the FEI tests, the medium and the advanced. I think one is a junior and one is a child's test, which again are sort of the equivalent of second, third level. So no, I'm not riding Grand Prix. The next thing everybody always wants to know is, are you bringing your horse? And no. The Israelis are fabulous and they will provide horses, sort of like with IHSA or IEA or IDA. Right. You can pull a pool horse where you just, pull a name out of a hat and that's the horse that you get. Or if you want, you can choose to try to lease a horse. And that's a horse that you get to ride anywhere from a week to 2 weeks before you actually go down center line. And that's what I and my teammates are planning to do. I am so lucky to have two phenomenal teammates. Our head, or our coach and our chef de keep and our chair, and the leader of us is a rider named Rebecca Cord. And Rebecca is a bronze and silver medalist. She has her ARIA and USDF certified instructors certificates. She worked for Iron Spring Farm in 2001, starting and breaking young horses, as well as preparing them for sale. And then she also worked at Hilltop Farm with their horses as well. She's got a resume that just goes on and on and on. She started the horse Sombrero de Top that many of the listeners may have heard of, that Felicitas von Neumann Cosel rides. And she started him and debuted him at Prix St. George. She's also ridden the pony stallion Popeye. she's just her resume just goes on and on and on and on. And we are just so fortunate to have her. This will be her third games.
Wow.
She was in Israel for her first games and then was in Hungary for the European Championships. And this is just so cool. And I'll talk more about Rebecca as we, continue over the next few months.
Right.
And my other team member is a phenomenal woman named Lauren Sarah. And Lauren is an adult amateur who started riding as a fox hunter in Pennsylvania. She's a fashion designer and owns a business called Rat Books. She has two sons. One's in college and the other is a chef who just opened a brand new restaurant outside of Philadelphia in Gladwin. She also has her bronze medal on a beautiful imported mare who she calls Lola. Her name is Corolla. Lola is the name of my dachshund. Let me tell you, Corolla is nothing like her Lola, my Lola. Her Corolla is a 17-2 hand, absolutely drop dead, gorgeous mare. And this has been Lauren's bucket list for years now. And she is over the moon with the excitement of going and competing in Israel. She is actually responsible for bringing our advisor along with us, and that is Missy Ranshausen.
Wow.
How lucky are we?
Yeah.
For those who don't know, Missy is the coach of the U.S. Para Equestrian team and has, been the chef to keep and the coach at so many international competitions. And of course, she's the daughter of Jessica. So, I mean, I just can't even. I just can't even begin to tell everybody how exciting and honored and thrilled and scared and intimidated and flattered. And what I've been saying to people is, pick an adjective. And yes, I'm experiencing that. This is a very expensive endeavor for all of us. This is not something where the U.S. just pays for us.
Right.
So we do a lot of fundraising and, Stephanie, I have been in absolute tears for the last 3 weeks. I opened a fundraising page and I think I have counted over 30 people in my community have already contributed to the fundraiser. I have a corporate sponsor through FICS in Maryland.
Yeah.
I mean, just the most wonderful people with huge donations and people that I barely know who've donated $20. I mean, just people reaching out and the kindness and the support has had me moved beyond more than I can even begin to say.
Yeah.
I am doing an online auction that opens on April Fool's Day. I figured that was an appropriate time. And it's going to be on the 32 Auctions platform. And again, people have just the outpouring. It's not just horse stuff. A dear friend of mine has volunteered 4 hours of business coaching. Another friend has donated 2 weeks of on-site boarding and training for dogs. And then there's just all kinds of other stuff. So if your listeners are interested, they can contact me, they can PM me on Facebook or they can email me and I can give them the links to all of these things because this auction is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
I also have been given a pair of, I'm not sure yet whether it will be Kingsley or whether it will be De Niro boots to raffle.
Wow.
So that's going to happen at some point as well. And I'll be, publicizing that. And then Wonderful Dressage Today has donated one entire year of Dressage Today on demand. How amazing are we?
Oh,
I mean, it's not enough that they listen to me talk every month, but now they're also donating this. So to everybody who's listening, this is just the coolest thing ever. And I'm going to be talking about this for months and you're all going to be bored with me. But I'm going to be walking in the opening ceremonies.
Yeah.
In a white tracksuit with a USA flag, waving my hand behind the US flag. How many of us get to go to the Olympics?
No, I know. I mean, what an amazing opportunity.
Yeah. So I'm sorry. I'm a little gushy. Everybody
Yeah,
just
well, we can
so,
hear your excitement and your enthusiasm. It resonates, and I'm sure everybody can hear it. So, but it's fantastic. Of course, you should
and if
be.
anybody has questions, feel free to ask, because I had heard of the Maccabi Games in the past, but the equestrian sport is relatively new. And so I'm learning as I go, and I'd love to share everything that I learned with you guys. And of course, once I come back, I'll have lots of stories to tell.
Yeah, that's what I can't wait to hear, the blow by blow, or hopefully not blow.
Hopefully no blowing.
Yeah, right. Play by play. Let's go.
Yes, play by play. As one of my goals. I'm not going to win gold. I'm going to stay on and not die.
There we go. But it's an absolutely amazing opportunity, and so from everyone, I will say congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And so we also actually wanted to let our listeners know that Chelsea Kennedy's first videos have been released on Dressage Today on demand. And
Yay.
I know you might remember that Chelsea was a guest on this podcast last year, and she brings a really unique perspective to her training. So if you missed that episode for some crazy reason, go back.
Why would you miss that?
I know. Actually, honestly, I looked. It's one of our most popular episodes. So if you're new listeners and you haven't gone back and heard everything yet, go find it. It's season 2, episode 13. And then in her first set of videos that we just released, she talks about how horses learn, how we can help horses learn, the purpose of groundwork, and she even does a guided meditation.
Wow.
So yeah, you should check that. That may help you. That might help calm you and center you, Aviva, as you go forward in your.
Yes, I was thinking drugs, but meditation might be better.
Okay. Let's try meditation first.
Yes.
So we just wanted to let everybody know to check her out if you're a subscriber. If you're not, you can get a 10-day free trial with a subscription at ondemand.dressagetoday.com, or you can bid on the 1-year free subscription.
Exactly. See, perfect.
There we go.
Well, I do have to say that I was a little skeptical before we spoke with Chelsea. Because it sounded a little bit of woo-woo to me, the whole mindfulness and all the rest of that. And, I'm a little bit more pragmatic than that, but I have to tell you, she is an amazing human being, and her way of dealing with the way that horses learn and making it possible for them to learn and making riders able to learn. She made me a convert, and I am just so disappointed that she isn't in Maryland, because I would ride with her in a heartbeat. And I'm hoping to have an excuse to go up and visit her, preferably before I go to Israel, because she's a remarkable, remarkable woman, and just so down to earth and so easy to listen to and to talk to. She's just amazing. And I can't wait to see the videos.
Yeah. Yep. So go check them out.
I will.
We received a 2-part question from Melody for our Ask the L segment.
Yep.
And the first part you answered last month. It was about warm-up etiquette.
Yep.
And again, for our listeners, if you missed that, you just have to go back one episode.
It's easier.
Yeah, exactly. February. There you go. You can get Aviva's answer about warm-up etiquette. But the second part of the question that Melody had, we are going to address in this segment. And that is whether or not she wants to know if the judge pays attention to the horse and rider before entering at A.
Yeah, that's a funny question. I like it. So technically, the judge doesn't watch anything that happens before the rider enters the arena. which is a reason sometimes, competitors complain about the fact that I was just riding past the judge and all of a sudden she blew the whistle and spooked my horse. And that's because, when you're judging, just because you finish your test and you say thank you and you walk out, that doesn't mean that the judge is just sitting there twiddling her thumbs waiting for the next rider. The judge is now doing the collectives and the further remarks. And sometimes that takes a little bit longer than other times. And so she's busily writing and doing her thing and trying to keep track of the time to make sure that the next rider isn't going around and around and around and around the arena for, ad infinitum. And so she's finished writing and she looks up and she blows the whistle or rings the bell and holy crap, there's the rider right in front of her. So that I have to explain that to people just so that they know it really isn't spiteful. Right. But sometimes we finish quickly because we do. And sometimes we're running a little bit ahead of time and the judge glances up and sees that the rider is having a problem. Horse is taking one look at the judge's booth and says, I'm not going up there. And so sometimes the judge will give that rider just a moment to see if they can work through it. Sometimes we finish a little bit early and we, look up and there's still a couple of seconds before we need to ring the bell and see the horse and rider going around the ring and think, oh, well, this is going to be a nice ride, or, oh, this might not be so good. But it doesn't matter. Ultimately, yes, you've made some kind of an impression, but we all know you can, and we talked about this last time, you can win the warm-up.
Right.
But once you enter at A, all bets are off.
Right.
And so many horses, they start around the outside of the arena and they're beautiful and they're soft and they're all the rest of it. And then the judge blows the whistle and the rider gets tense and the horse says, holy crap. And the head goes up and the back goes down. And then they come down center line and the judge is sitting there saying, what happened to that beautiful horse? Because it's not here.
Right.
So the short answer is no, the judge doesn't pay attention. And even if they do, it's not really relevant. So we always want to put on our best clothes and we always want to put our best foot forward. So imagine when you're going around the outside of the arena that the judge really is watching you and really is judging you and giving you a score. But more than that, use that time to do that last little bit of schooling that you need to do to make sure that your horse is on the aids, to make sure that your horse is listening to you. If you need to do a counterflexion to loosen up the base of the neck, don't worry that the judge is thinking counterbend. Do what you need to do so that when you enter at A, you have a horse who is truly on your aids and is going to show off the best of your training.
That's an excellent answer.
Thank you. That's why you pay me the big bucks.
That's right. And, we've had some really great questions, but we look forward to hearing from you out there who hasn't asked a question yet. Please don't be shy. Ask away. Aviva will answer to the best of her ability.
And at least I'll talk,
That's right. You'll have something.
Might not make any sense, but I'll say something.
So you can reach me via email at sruff@equinenetwork.com or reach out to us on social media. Coming up next is our interview with JJ Tate. Gastric Support just got easy. Forage First GS by ADM helps provide gastric support for horses of all ages and performance levels. Performance horses today have high energy requirements and face many stressors, including exercise, hauling, and stall confinement. An estimated 90% of performance horses face stomach discomfort caused by gastric distress, which can negatively affect their performance, attitude, and overall health. The unique triple action blend of ingredients in ADM's Forage First GS supplement helps support a healthy gastric pH while protecting and strengthening the stomach lining, helping keep your horse happy and performing at its best. Forage First GS Gastric Support for the one you love the most. Learn more and find your dealer at admequine.com. Jessica Jo JJ Tate began to take her place among the country's riding elite early, making her FEI debut at just 16 years old. Earning numerous national and regional titles, JJ has trained and competed over 29 horses at the FEI levels, including 8 at Grand Prix. Known for her classical education and elegant riding, she is a top competitor whose devotion to the very highest standards of horsemanship and integrity make her a positive role model in the contemporary dressage world. JJ has been longlisted for the World Equestrian Games and represented the United States in competitions abroad. This year, she has had a successful season showing at the Global Dressage Festival in Wellington, Florida. JJ, I would like to thank you very much for taking some time out of your extremely busy schedule to talk with us today.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie, for inviting me to be here. And I'm always eager to share anything and everything about horses. And now it's also moved into breast cancer and things like that. So I'm always happy to share.
That's wonderful. Well, to start with, kind of the basic question, how did you get involved with horses and then more specifically dressage?
Well, I started, I think horses have been in my blood. I think I was born with it, the obsession of horses in general. And I was lucky enough to have my mom be the kind of woman who exposed her children to all kinds of things. Like we all needed to learn an instrument. We all took dance lessons. And we were all, encouraged to try new things and follow our path. And so I was very, very jealous when my oldest sister got to take riding lessons with our neighbor. And so I would beg to go along, and I was, I think, 7 years old. I took my first lesson. And by the time I was 9, I was actually hooked on dressage. And I was, again, lucky enough to have Gail Kelm move into the stable where I started riding, just regular English. And I started riding with Greta Pell, who 10 years later, became my business partner in my first training business. But Gail Kelm was the first trainer who, by happenstance, happened to come to our little riding stable in Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin. And by the time I was 11, Gail introduced me to Charles DeCumpy, he's become my mentor of over 30 years. So it's all like all the right people kind of, happened to come into my life, all at the right time.
It was absolutely meant to be. That's clear.
Yeah. And when I was 18, I got, just the idea of like, should I go to college and play basketball? Because that was another passion of mine. Or should I go to Europe and ride horses? And so Charles organized it for me to go to Budapest, Hungary and train with Gyula Dalos, who I'm sure some of you could Google and maybe know about. He rode an amazing Dutch gray stallion named Action. And I decided to, go to Europe and do a real live apprenticeship. And I stayed in Europe. I stayed first for 7 months and came home with my 2 young rider horses. I did young riders. I sold one. I leased out the other. I bought a young horse and figured out I needed to go back because I just scratched the surface. And I went back for another a little bit over a year and a half. So probably another year and 8 months. And it was just incredible. And I felt like Charles kind of set me up to go train with Gyula. Gail supported the whole thing. I started riding at all with Greta Pell when I was 7 years old. And when I came home from Europe at 21, Greta and I organized our business, Wingate Dressage Center, in the southeastern corner of Wisconsin. And then that led me to, wonderful teachers in my life that then led me to, we sold Wingate and I moved east and wanted to keep going after my dream of riding on the team. And so it just kind of each step of the way has kind of been revealed at the right moment.
Well, when it's meant to be like that, everything always falls into place.
Yep, for sure.
So what is it about, you kind of explained a little bit how you met Charles and got involved with him, and how he set you on your path. And you have stuck with him, and he's still your mentor and everything. So what is it about his philosophy and his and the whole and all of that you like so much?
I think the whole idea of harmony and partnership and trust and love for my horses is something that's really prevalent in my teachings and in my riding. I grew up with the most perfect, fantastic first horse. He was saddlebred, and he was my best friend. And it was just a beautiful relationship. And I think about how trusting he was of me and how trusting I was of him. And I really make a big effort to have that in each and every horse that I train and develop. That's my favorite part of it, like really knowing each horse for their own individual pros and challenges. And through learning through Charles, through the science of riding and the classical principles, that sort of set me on a trajectory of, problem solving in the context of the science of riding. That there's a real way to do it properly, that in the best interest of the horse, not only physically, but emotionally. And, Charles, he always taught me how you can make an okay horse good and a good horse great. And then eventually, hopefully you'll get lucky enough to get a great horse and make it fantastic. And so, everything I apply to my fancy warm bloods, I've also put on every type of breed. I've taught a Percheron how to canter. I've put a fjord on the bit. I've learned to sit the trot, and it's all the same concepts that Charles has passed down from me, from his academy experience and his learnings from his teachers that got passed down from his teachers. So it's really something special to be a part of and a vessel for the information that has been passed down teacher to teacher for hundreds of years. I find like a really neat connection of horsemanship that has worked for, thousands of horses and hundreds of riders. And to be kind of a modern day spokesperson and example of that is something I take a lot of pride in. And, I always laugh because now in my career, I have the opportunity to ride with all kinds of amazing Olympic riders and Olympic trainers. And, Charles still to this day gives me some of my most incredible feelings and feedback on the horses that I have, that we always joke that, and he does in his lessons, right? Charles is always like, am I right? Or am I always right? And I'm just like, you are always right. And so it's just fun to see those timeless principles be proven true. That it always works. It just always works. And so that's kind of fun to bring alive to the new generation of classical riders as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting getting to know you on Facebook and, seeing the posts about all the very different horses that you ride and the love that you have for each one of them as an individual. And the insight that you have into each one of them as an individual is just so, it's moving and it's refreshing. And I just love that you love them all from, the Connemara to the big fancy warm blood, and that you find the beauty and the strength and the thing that makes them special.
That's awesome feedback. I really appreciate that, because that's one of my passions, and I feel like what I like to share with people, and everyone's always like, which one's your favorite? And I'm like, well, all of them and none of them. And like each one of them, like they literally are all my favorite, and I tell each one of them whenever I get on them, I'm like, you're the best horse. You're the best. You're my favorite. And I'm like, don't tell the others I told you that. Because
it's like a parent with their children.
At 5 this morning, I told them that they were my favorite, because it is like, each one is teaching me a lot about myself too, but each one of them kind of needs their own approach and their own path and their own calendar. And, Charles has really taught me how to respect that and discover that. And, you know, if I hadn't had the experiences I've had with Charles, my second horse had a lot of Lyme disease and a lot of lameness. So I got to ride a lot of different horses in the clinics when Charles would come. So I did get to ride horses I did not know. So it's sort of like my own academy process of like, okay, I'm going to ride this 5-year-old the night before the clinic because I'm in the clinic with him, you know, and Charles is going to guide me through a great training process with this horse I don't know, you know. So and this one, you know, is a schoolmaster, and I'm going to ride him Friday before this next clinic because, you know, again, my second horse, Stanley, had a lot of lameness. And at the time, I thought it was such a hardship in my riding because he was never sound enough to really learn a lot on through Charles. But it also gave me this gift of riding countless different horses in the clinic with Charles, which, you know, really attached me into, it wasn't just with my own personal horse. This was all horses and all breeds. And even in our online academy, Team Tate Academy, I have a rescue pony who's clearly too small for me at 14 too. Like, he's a true pony. But I love Isaac. And then, you know, there's Norma, who's a 20-year-old Morgan, that we show that, like, these timeless principles, you know, it's absolutely important to understand them, to apply to your horse at home, no matter what that breed is or how high of a level it will achieve or how fancy it is. And I grew up on the non-fancy, and we brought out the best in that horse through Charles's teachings that were passed down to him. And it's just an honor in my life to bring that to everybody at home, because we all just want to make each and every one of our own horses the best version they can be.
Yeah.
And sometimes you might be surprised what shakes out.
Yeah. Is there something in particular that you look for to make a horse great?
You know, when I pick out a horse for myself, you know, the first thing I find is a horse that wants to work with me. There can be an amazing amount of talented horses out there, but without the like attachment to wanting to be my partner, you could call it maybe a work ethic. But I do find great enjoyment. Like, as long as the horse wants to work with me, I can make it better. You know, I look for 3 pure gaits, of course, the walk and the canter being the best. And then, you know, that need, or the horse looks to want to be your partner and hear you out. You know, there can be a lot of horses that just, you know, have too much energy and don't want to bother listening to you, or they're kind of dominant in their personalities and want to, you know, always do their idea, you know. So, like, I look for that horse that wants to look to me for guidance, or that they can have the ability to learn that skill. You know, not everyone is born that way, but if they have that skill down deep, I like to search for that too. You know, that it's like, it is in their nature, but they've had these certain experiences in their life that block that. But down deep, they really are that horse. I find that actually also really fun and interesting, to peel the layers away of maybe like not the best type of training or not the best experience. Like Isaac in our academy, who was abused and, you know, rescued. That's a powerful thing, like, you know, to find out who is he really underneath all that. And of course, we find out who we are really through that process. And I find that that's an important thing to share as well, how we grow and how we need to be open to the process of learning as well, like a real growth mindset.
So who are the horses that you have with you now?
We have a really exciting lineup of really great horses. And I, you know, just a shout out to the wonderful trainers in my life who have always encouraged me to continue to build a pipeline, even if the horses were young, or, you know, you had to figure out a way to lease a horse or help somehow to get a good horse in your barn. So it's kind of fun to stop and look around and see the wonderful pipeline I've created. And I've got wonderful owners and really great support. And I'll kind of start from the top down as far as age and level. So I've had the wonderful opportunity to bring Darby into the International Grand Prix ring. So it's kind of fun to come on the tails of a wonderful horse. I had Gabriel, who I won the 4-star with, and I won Devon with. And so you always think about like, okay, that was an exciting, amazing ride. You know, I was so grateful for, and like who comes up after that, you know? And then of course we all love the Super Pony, and Gideon is now owned by one of my wonderful clients. And I just taught him this last weekend in South Carolina, and he is just the perfect horse for Catherine. And so that, you know, it's so hard to like, you know, feel that the journey with that particular horse, it takes on a new shape. And so now it just makes my heart so happy to see him being a wonderful schoolmaster for Catherine. And so that actually allowed Darby, who's owned by Tate and Dean Wright, it's allowed Darby to kind of step into the limelight, which is, we won regionals together last year, 2 months out of a double mastectomy for me. And that was an amazing, powerful journey. And he was kind of waiting the whole time. He's one of those horses that are kind of like, put me in, coach, me. So it was kind of neat to like watch him show up for me like that, and really a powerful experience. And so now we've made the move up to the International Grand Prix in Florida this year. And he's done 2 4-stars, and in each of those classes, he, you know, placed in the top 8, which has been pretty cool. And then he always brings it, you know, every Friday night lights with the freestyle under the lights. And it's such a great thing to experience with a horse that loves a crowd and loves the energy. And, you know, it's so much more enjoyable to have a horse that goes in there like, I can't wait to show off, instead of one that is like absolutely terrified, you know, of the applause and the audience. And so that's been a great joy this season to have Darby, you know, not only step into his own, but really step up to the plate, you know, into the international ring. So I'm got a wonderful opportunity this summer to take 5 horses with me to train with Michael Klemke in Germany. We leave actually next week, so that's exciting. So Darby's the top dog. You know, he's the captain of the A team, as we say. And then I have Apollo, who's a horse who's coming 12 this year, and I've had him since he's 4. So it's been a really beautiful, sometimes frustrating, amazing development with him, and he's getting ready to do his Grand Prix debut. And so, yeah, I've got big hopes for him. He's an incredible mega horse that is as much as he is brilliant, he's been as challenging. He's just is an overachiever and kind of can't get out of his own way sometimes. And so, you know, it's just been a beautiful learning experience and growth with him since he's been a youngster, and the difference of what this horse truly turned into. And we're not done yet. So it's just been a beautiful journey. And so he's going to come along as well. I've also had the wonderful opportunity to compete Romeo. And we've had Romeo in our program since he was the dot on the ultrasound machine. Developed beautifully by Jessica Davis, who is a trainer I sort of had to kidnap from Wisconsin and bring her to my South Carolina base. And she's now one of my Team Tate trainers. And she developed Romeo. And then one of my clients, Eileen Borman, was able to purchase him, and he's a perfect horse for Eileen. And Eileen has allowed me to compete him a little bit as well and develop him to the next level. And he's proved he's a beautiful small tour horse. So he is going to stay home with Eileen and Ashley Perkins and Jessica Davis. They'll stay home in South Carolina, but they'll continue to develop him. And Eileen learns a lot from her lessons on him. So he's going to be, you know, ready for Florida next season. But he'll stay home and enjoy the summer in South Carolina. So the third horse I'm going to bring to Germany with me is a horse named Ivar D, which I own in a partnership with Heldstrand Dressage. So that's been an amazing partnership that I'm honored to be a part of. You know, he's a super talented horse, and we needed a year to get together. And of course, I had a 4-month hiatus with the breast cancer debacle last summer. So although it's been an incredible blessing in my life, the breast cancer diagnosis and the journey through that has really brought an incredible perspective and texture in my life. But it sort of got me a little bit behind with Ivar. And so I'm really looking forward to the summer in Germany with him. And I hope our bond really cements in. And I'm going to get amazing help from Michael. So I'm excited about that partnership as well. And the next horse in the line who just made his third level debut is a beautiful black horse named Denali, who is also owned by Jackie and Dean. So they also own Darby. So Denali is going to come, and I hope to, build the bridge to Prix St. George for that horse. I think he's ready and feels like the right time. And I'm also bringing one of my youngsters named Freddie, who I own with one of my best friends in partnership, Michelle Miller. So we're going to bring Freddie along as well. So we've got, kind of the spectrum, which I think is always fun for me to have this young horses, middle horses, Grand Prix horses. It's fun to bring that to my Team Tate Academy for all my clients and students and like-minded community. It's fun for everyone to come along the journey with us.
Yeah.
JJ, you're such an inspiration to people who've gone through the whole breast cancer route that you have. I'm flabbergasted that you were able to be riding again at the level that you were only 2 months after a double mastectomy. What do you attribute your resilience to? I mean, that's just, it's remarkable. It's almost a miracle.
Well, thank you for seeing it that way. And it doesn't feel like a miracle to me. I mean, I feel like it was, I've always been a positive person. And once I got diagnosed, all the character building experiences I've had through my relationship with horses sort of prepared me for this big bump in my road. But I think I've had a lot of practice of, okay, that's bad news. Okay, wow. Okay, wasn't expecting that at all. Okay. I kind of just take a moment and say, okay, this has happened. Now, what are we going to do about it? And what am I going to do about it? And what do I have control over? And how can I, kind of tackle this the best way I can and come out positive on the other end of it? I kind of surprised myself of wow, you really took that in stride, and then, whoa, you took a hold of it, and then you tackled it to the ground,
Yeah.
I do think, my purpose for living with horses really sort of took over, and I feel really, proud and grateful that, my love of horses is so strong that all those really difficult times of wow, he tore a suspensory. Wow. Okay. I thought I was going to be qualifying for this big show or whatever. And wow, now we got to treat this suspensory. And now I've got to tack walk. And it wasn't the journey I anticipated or hoped for, but this is where we are now. And how do I tackle that in the best way I can? All of those situations, whether it's colic surgery or something wrong with the eyeball or a leg injury, or I bought this horse, he doesn't seem to be the temperament I thought I did. I guess I need to learn some groundwork, all of those challenges sort of got me ready to deal with my own personal journey of breast cancer. And, getting back in the tack was a huge inspiration for me. My horses bring me inspiration. So I was back on a horse in 2 weeks.
Wow.
I still had a drain, but it was important for me to I just need to get back on and walk, and I made a really responsible choice about don't overdo it and get on your safest horse and, all those things. And that just brought me so much soulful fulfillment to be able to get back on and do what I love. Ashley Perkins and Jessica Davis, really kept my horses really fit while I was rehabbing myself. But it was definitely something that my soul took fulfillment from, so that really made me happy. And Montana was the first horse I got back on. And of course, Norma was the second horse, the 20-year-old Morgan program. They both helped me rehab, and so that was a beautiful thing. And I was very fit when it all happened. And I have a very strong resilience in myself. So I attribute being able to pop back that quickly. I also radically changed my diet and my mindset. I listened to a lot of great books. I did a lot of soul searching. I got a lot of education on a thing I really didn't ever think I wanted to or needed to. And you just have to deal with the cards that you're dealt. Sometimes you can't control the cards you're dealt, but you can control how you play them. So it was a beautiful, powerful gift, which created a lot of growth for myself personally. And I will continue to walk down that path with bravery, and hopefully inspire other women and men to how to face difficult situations that, are absolutely, it will happen in our life. We will have a great loss in our life, and we will have a great challenge in our life. And it looks like different things for different people, but there is a way to kind of train yourself to come through it in the most positive way possible. And, if I can be of any help to anyone, I hope I can be.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're pretty remarkable. I know as a trained social worker, one of the things that we talk about is trying to reframe things into positives. And the way that you've taken this diagnosis and used it as a way of reshaping your life and the way that you look at your life and your relationships with people and horses. I mean, I just think that's such a tribute to you. I'm really grateful to hear you.
It's just interesting too, like everything sort of happens for a reason at the time it was supposed to happen. I think about this new exciting journey I get to go on to Germany this summer and work towards my dreams of representing the United States on a team one day. And I don't think I would have had the courage and the organizational ability to do it if cancer hadn't come in my life. Right? Wow. I mean, I've been talking about going to Europe a long time, but it never felt quite right. It never was the right time, and I never had the right resources, the right horses. They weren't old enough, and all of a sudden, like, I absolutely directly related to having the courage to, tackle cancer last year and continue every day to make positive choices for myself to keep tackling cancer. I feel like you're never a survivor in a past tense. Every day we're full of choices, and you can choose self-love or you could choose self-destruction. And I feel every moment what I decide to put into my body, how much rest I decide to get, how much people I'm spending my energy on, what horses, and all of that has led me to be able to take that courageous step to go to Europe and train. And it's just, I don't know if I would have been able to really put those pieces into play without having gone through what I went through last year, Wow. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, it is. And so one of the other things that you just did was you participated in the Challenge of Americas, including you did a pas de deux with fellow breast cancer survivor Shannon Dewick. So could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. That was, it's all, and Mary Ross, God bless her, she's created this incredible event in the honor of her mother who she lost to breast cancer. And so it's just incredible about like how deep one person can have an effect. I think about, how Mary Ross really got this incredible event off the ground. I think it's been 30 years maybe, or 20. I mean, it's been a long time, and the great event it's become, is all about one person's vision. And so we can all have an impact. And I just encourage everybody to look at their life and see how how can I contribute, to the greater good? And I'm so grateful to Mary. Every year she calls me and she's like, do you have a horse for the quadrille? And I'm like, oh, Mary, no, I don't. It's huge. It's huge. It's a once a week practice. We're on those horses an hour. We walk through the choreography. We go through the choreography. We practice and practice and practice. And so it's not easy on the trainers or the horses that sign up for that. And I have to give a big shout out to Lauren Chumley and Jesse Hayes for letting me borrow Fatty. Fatty was my stand-in for Darby. So I did participate every week in the practices, but Darby was also showing. So I couldn't run him on his legs, over and over again.
Yeah.
So it was a really amazing team effort. But, the Challenge of the Americas every year is an exciting event, and it's a quadrille of 6 Grand Prix horses and riders. This year, I think we had 3 or maybe 4 teams. And so that's a lot of horses and a lot of trainers and a lot of time. And, a lot of the people who bring the music and the choreography, it's choreographers, it's music people, it's trainers and coaches. And it's just an incredible event. And to think about, for me, having gone through the experience about the research that has been done behind breast cancer, really made my cancer experience not only a very individual experience, but also a very different experience even from 5 years ago, when women have been diagnosed and their process of how do I need chemo? Do I need radiation? What are the chances about my cancer and how it grew in my body? And what is the best way to combat this? It's like this Breast Cancer Research Foundation is kind of leading the way on research and how we want to improve every woman's and also men's experience with how it doesn't need to be, you can continue to live with this disease and you can conquer this disease. And we wouldn't be able to do that without, organizations like Play for Pink and, the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. And so this Challenge of the Americas really creates a beautiful avenue to be able to create more, we put it out there, that many, many women ride horses, 1 out of 8 women are going to be having a breast cancer diagnosis in their life. And what became really powerful for me, Shannon was a huge help to me. I was texting her, I was hoping I didn't annoy her too much, because I was like, Shannon, hey, it's me again. What happened after, what happens in surgery? How quick did you get back on, and what should I anticipate happening, and what's a timeline you think is something that's reasonable, and she answered all my questions along with fellow dressage riders, Helen Sandman and Lisa Van Martels. They were incredible personal for me. Not only did they go through it, Helen hasn't gone through it herself, but both Lisa and Shannon both had gone through a double mastectomy, and they're also riders. And so that was huge for me to hear from people who went through it, who thrived through it and didn't become a victim of the bad news. And so for me, when it was it's such a personal, powerful event that happened in my life that I wanted to also give something back. And so I texted Shannon. I'm like, hey, what do you think about doing a pot I do with these both breast cancer survivors? And it's so, I'm 7 months out right now. And it was powerful for me to kind of show up in that way for other people going through it. And so I kind of dragged Shannon into it, and she was game. She was like, right on. I'm like, I'm up for it. So I choreographed it, and I picked out the music with Marlene Whitaker, who's been always one of my favorite people to create my competitive freestyles for me. She did Cambay, she did Fabergé, she did Gideon with me. So she's always been a wonderful person. And she came with me, and we listened to the music, and I was so moved. I cried, and I'm like, this is the piece we need to ride to. And so we picked Melissa Etheridge's I Ride for Life or I run for life. And so Melissa Etheridge is also a breast cancer survivor and wrote that song about her journey. And I just thought it would be really powerful if Shannon and I walked down the center line to those lyrics of what it feels like a little bit to have that phone call that you have something growing in your body, and wow, it's powerful, the journey it takes you on. And yet, we run for your mother, your sister, your daughter, your wife. We run for ourselves. We run for each other, and we ride for everyone. And so it was a beautiful, moving experience to be a part of. Truly moving.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting here crying.
Oh. You made Aviva cry.
It was a very touching, powerful moment of my life, for sure.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you for sharing all of that. And the last question is one that I like to ask everyone just to get their perspective. And you really have kind of said it in throughout some of the things you've talked about. But if you could put it in a nutshell, what do you think makes a good horse person?
I think a great horse person is someone who is willing to see the lessons being shown through our interchange and interaction with horses. I think a growth mindset, not only for how can I make this particular horse's experience, how can I improve that, whether it's approaching it in a different way, to help that horse grow into the best horse they can be, whether that's physically, emotionally, you want to make a shy horse confident, you want to make a weak horse strong, you want to make a exuberant horse, more tame, but also like having a growth mindset in ourselves mixed in with the Grand Prix mindset, I like to call it. Like, how can I become, a Grand Prix person? And how can this horse become a Grand Prix horse? And that doesn't always look like riding down center line at the Grand Prix.
Right.
But I think to kind of open yourself up to where is my work inside myself, because as I become a better person, I also become a better horseman. And our horses deserve that from us as much as possible.
Yeah, that sums it up pretty darn well, I think. So if where can people find you on social media and stuff and get in touch with you to follow all of your multiple journeys? Yes.
We are very prevalent on Facebook and Instagram at Team Tate Academy. We're an open place for people to come become a part of something special happening, and we want to encourage and help you guys training your horses at home as well.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing all of your journeys and being so open and positive. And, I'm sure you've heard that you're an inspiration, but hearing you say it here, I think Aviva would agree with me that you really, really are. And whether you're going through a significant health situation or just life in general, your outlook is absolutely amazing.
Yes.
Thank you so much. And I forgot to say, you can also join us. I was thinking about that as you said that on Apple Podcast at Dressage Life with JJ Tate.
Okay.
Where we talk about all of those things.
Well, thank you for joining us, and best of luck. Safe travels over to Germany, and good luck with that. And just continued good health and success.
Thank you so much. Same to you guys as well.
Thanks for listening to the Dressage Today podcast. If you've missed any episodes or to subscribe, go to Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. While you're there, please rate and review the show. Learn more and read in-depth training articles at dressagetoday.com, or you can visit our subscription video site, ondemand.dressagetoday.com. Be sure to give us a follow on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and Pinterest. Happy riding, and we'll see you at X. The Dressage Today podcast is a production of the Equine Podcast Network, an entity of Equine Network, LLC.